For the past 37 years, she has lectured throughout the United States and internationally. Her extraordinary life experiences have enabled her to speak personally and eloquently on issues relating to the physical and emotional well-being of women, children, and youth, whole being education, over-incarceration, and the role of spiritual practice in sustaining activism and promoting social change. As a result of her 14-year tenure as a leading member of the Black Panther Party, the longest of any woman in the leadership of the Black Panther Party, she brings a unique, complete, and honest perspective to the challenges and successes of the Black Panther Party and its significance today. In 1968, at the age of 18, she became a leader in the Los Angeles chapter of the Black Panther Party with her husband, John Huggins. 3 weeks after the birth of their daughter in 1969, John Huggins was killed and Ericka was widowed. In 1969, Huggins and fellow party member Bobby Seale were targeted and arrested on conspiracy charges. The resulting trial, one of the longest and most celebrated of the era, spawned several books. While awaiting trial for 2 years before charges were dropped, including time in solitary confinement, Huggins taught herself to meditate as a means to survive incarceration. A lifelong writer and poet, upon release from prison in 1971, Ericka Huggins became writer and editor for the Black Panther Intercommunal News Service. From 1973 to 1981, Ms. Huggins was the director of the Oakland Community School, a groundbreaking community-run child development center and elementary school founded by the Black Panther Party. In 1976, Ericka Huggins became both the first woman and the first Black person to be appointed to the Alameda County Board of Education. In 1979, 10 years after her release from prison, Huggins returned to California state, county, and federal prisons and jails to share her experiences of yoga and meditation. In 1990, at the height of public awareness of HIV and AIDS, Ms. Huggins was the first woman practical support volunteer coordinator at the world-renowned Shanti program. During her time at the Shanti Project, Huggins helped develop citywide programs for the support of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and questioning youth with HIV and AIDS. Over the last decade or more, she has taught at California State Universities and California Community Colleges, colleges like the College of Marin. She is currently a facilitator with World Trust, an Oakland-based organization that uses films that document through story the impact of systems of racial inequality. I read, when I spoke with Ms. Huggins before the event, she said, Walter, there's a short bio and a long bio, and you can choose to do what you want to. I intentionally read the long bio to highlight the life and work of Ms. Ericka Huggins. Ericka and I had a chance over the last couple of years, and we were in the same place at the same time to sit and have conversations. And one of those conversations I actually had an audio recording of. And there were some things, people say some things that just stick with you and you just want to sit with them for a while. And so I went back and listened over the last few days, and I was just moved by her listening abilities and her compassion and the deepness of how she responds to issues. It's unfair to call a person like Ms. Ericka Huggins a survivor. In the African American community, we have these things about getting you through to the other side, which means you get to the point essentially that you're okay. She's much more than a survivor. The conversations and words and interactions you'll hear from her this evening highlight that Ms. Ericka Huggins brings heart and soul and agency that is well beyond just survival. And African religious philosophy referred to the Zamani, who are the ancestors, who are part of that world of those who have passed away, those who are living, and those who are yet born. Ericka Huggins is a gift from the Zamani. Please welcome her, Ericka Huggins.
In a theater, it's okay not to see the people, but with what we're going to do tonight, I want to see you. As a matter of fact, that reminds me that there is I'll get back to thanking everybody in a minute, but first, all of us together. There is a place in East Africa where the greeting is this: I see you, and the person responds, I am seen. Try it. I see you. I am seen. I see you. Is it difficult? No. Well, we live in a society that's like, what's up? And we don't want to know the response. How are you? And we don't want to know the answer. I see you. And I appreciate being seen. So thank you everyone for having me here this evening. Thank you to Walter. Thank you to Tanya. Thank you to my new friend Cynthia, who's a student of College of Marin. And I hope she'll introduce me to other of my new friends later. Thank you to Oshala and Nina. I wish I had the way to express to you the conversation I had with Nina in the room back there as we were waiting to come out. This is what I live for. The generations now and to come. This gives me hope. And thank you to Nina's mom. What a precious treasure she is. And you see, all of the children are a precious treasure. And yet some of them are not seen. It's okay to say, yeah, that's right, if it's right. Yeah, and so tonight we will, I don't know any other way but than to tell the truth of my own experience. But it's fine later when we are talking for you to be truthful. I don't believe in safe spaces, but I do believe in the creation of brave spaces. So when we stop to talk together, I don't have all of the answers. I might be able to tell you in what years some program of the Black Panther Party started, but I don't have the answers for what we can do in our world we each do. It is collective wisdom. So I have prepared something, and I'll jump around with it. I want to also thank the unseen and unsung heroes. Those who have been in our lives always, those who passed on, those who are quietly here in this room, whose names we can't clap for. But I'd like us all to take a moment to honor the unsung, the unseen, yet known heroes and sheroes. Just take a moment. Thank you. So I didn't say how honored I am to be here at the College of Marin. I'm very honored to be here. As far as I'm concerned, schools like this are the prestigious schools. We don't have to go east to attend a prestigious school. Because it's in places like this where there's so many people committed to flooding the old systems with new ideas, with bursts of insight into humanity. So what systems am I talking about? I'm talking about all the infrastructures that hold all of the things that barrier us from one another in place. They're old, we had nothing to do with them, but they are there, just like the infrastructure of this theater. We don't see it, but it is there. And in fact, we helped, there's a big we here, helped to build the infrastructure with our own hands and feet, some of us. Some of us are descendants of enslaved Africans who built the White House, who worked in the White House, who made it what it is, who planted rice and other growing things to build the economy, on whose backs the economy was built. So I'm remembering those of my own ancestors and many of yours today. We can remember them even if we have not met them in body. It doesn't matter how many centuries go by, if we cannot talk about the history of the country we live in, then we're not healthy. We're not healthy. And we aren't healthy, but we can be. And it starts with giving the reality of history to children like Nina. Not the brutality of the history, the reality of it, as my mother did when I was little. In addition to teasing me about being skinny, she would also say to me, now sugar, now when you leave the house, you just remember that don't everybody love you like I do. So don't go walking around out there with your eyes all big and not aware. She wasn't keeping me from loving the world. She was helping me to stay in it and have a bigger awareness. What was she trying to tell me, somebody, anybody? Just yell it out. Sometime today.
Be careful.
Be careful of?
Racism. Be wise. Strangers.
Strangers? No.
Oh, okay. Be aware.
Be aware was a big one, but she was telling me to be careful of what she called prejudice. And I'll never forget the day when I went to I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I went to the little corner store. Everybody knows a corner store, right? Okay, if you don't, you're culturally deprived. So I went to the little corner store that was across the border from D.C. in Maryland. And there were these I was a little girl, I was 8. And there were these little children, they were white, who saw me. And I said, hi. And they spit on me and called me nigger. I went home to my mother and I said, Mama, you always tell us about home training. I met some children that don't have any home training. And she said, slow down, Ericka, what happened? And I told her, and I was crying. And she said, oh, sugar, they had some home training. It just wasn't the right kind. Now sit down. Come on, I'll make you some tea. And then she explained slavery to me, and I've never forgotten it. It didn't break my heart. What had happened broke my heart, because I wasn't aware that people would tell children such horrible things. Fast forward 2017, my little grandson tells me that he's on a bus and his friend is with him on the bus, and a little boy, a little white boy, starts singing a song. And this is a private bus for a private school. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigger by his toe. My daughter was outraged. The other parent was in tears. They asked, through my daughter, what can we do? I said, let's get the children together and just talk about it. Let's just talk. Let's just hear what's hurting them. And they asked me, well, you lived a long time ago. Because, you know, I'm old folks to them. But we're in the 21st century. Why are people telling their children these things? These were 11-year-old boys I was talking to. And I said, because it's become okay again. Isn't that sad? I didn't know what to do when I was a child, so when I was 15, I started to think about what is it that I can do to uplift my world? Just one thing can I do? I couldn't figure it out. I lived where I saw people living in conditions of poverty that were so horrendous, I couldn't speak about it. And then I heard about the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. This was the March on Washington. And it took 2 DC buses for me to get there. And when I got there, I was so amazed by the people who had come from everywhere. I love telling this story because it reminds me of the ways in which we can come together for good. On that day, on the Capitol grounds, I stood by myself. And I witnessed people from all over the country gathered in love and peace. I'm not exaggerating. I don't remember the speeches, but what I do remember is that Lena Horne, a great human rights activist, she was other things as well, stood to the stage and sung 2 syllables. Freedom. Freedom. And it went over the crowds of thousands, and it entered our ears and settled in our hearts. And when it settled in my heart, a vow arose. I will serve people for the rest of my life. I didn't think it. I knew it as it came to me. And I went home on the 2 DC buses feeling, I have a purpose. It doesn't have to be like this. Now, I can't tell you why when I was 15 that vow arose in my heart. I don't try to explain everything to myself or to others. But it was true. And little did I know that by the time I was 21, I would have birthed a child and lost my best friend, who was also my husband. That was part of taking that vow. Part of it was joining the Black Panther Party, that only recently, as a result of its 50th anniversary, has the United States come to see it as famous rather than infamous. And what did we do? We created programs for community. All that about being the biggest threat to the internal security of the United States was something contrived to make people afraid and believe that young black men and women and as a matter of fact, the Black Panther Party wasn't just black folks. Did you know that?
True.
And did you know it was run by women?
True.
Yeah, it's true. I wouldn't lie to you, I don't have a reason to do so. So how was my husband killed? And by the way, he was killed with Al Prentice Bunchy Carter, who was 26 years old, and John was 23. My baby, our baby, was 3 weeks old. To tell you that my heart broke, that's understating it. My heart felt like shattered glass. I couldn't cry. I didn't understand why the government would have such a heinous program as counterintelligence program, a clandestine operation within the FBI, to do as it said in its mission statement, and you can go online and read it, to disrupt, discredit, and further neutralize Black liberation movements. And one of the big caveats was that Black students and white students stopped them from working together. Stop it. Neutralize. Shout out what that word means to you.
Kill.
Thank you, Kill. What?
Silence.
I didn't hear you.
Silence.
Silence.
Nothing. Love it. Eliminate.
Yes, and so one of the things that did happen is that their operations worked. There was money behind it. There was power behind it. The whole government was behind it, as it had been all those centuries before that, to keep enslaved Africans as property. So what do we do, people, when there are things that are so horrible? Do we keep driving past it? Do we keep saying, better them than me? Do we keep saying, it's going to get better? Do we keep saying, well, somebody is going to speak up in those rooms where those decisions are made? Or do we figure out what we can each do and do it?
From the Black Panthers.
Well, I don't actually know as much about the Black guerrilla family as I do about the Black Panther Party. But what I can say is that the Black Panther Party had a 10-point program, which was about serving people. As we said in the earliest version, 1966, all poor and oppressed people. And that's a lot of people. As an example, we still don't know how to talk about poor white people in this country. But somebody did, somebody's been speaking to them. However, so that's one of the things that we did. We didn't keep anybody away. We recognized we were in African American bodies or bodies of the African diaspora. But we were about all people. That's what drew me to the Black Panther Party. And there have been lots of organizations since that time that have replicated it or have borrowed principles from it. But the 10-point program ends by saying we want land, we want bread, we want housing, we want clothing, we want justice and peace. Thank you. Someone else? A statement, something that you've been wondering about that you want to talk about.
Tactics that you saw used in the 60s, 70s against the Panthers that you see still being used today?
I'm not being rude when I respond this way, but I can't see you. I wish I could see you. Oh, thank you. So, I can see you better back here. So, what do you think? Anybody, what do you think? You don't have to whisper.
Divide and conquer.
The divide and conquer is like COINTELPRO?
Nah.
Imprisonment.
Mass imprisonment,
Intimidation.
surveillance, right through your little computer screen.
Good immigrants and bad immigrants. You can have good immigrants and bad immigrants. That whole process.
Oh, that whole binary way of thinking? Yes. But back to what was the question again? Just yell it out. Or what was the statement? So there was, I thought that the person was speaking partially about COINTELPRO.
That too, whatever went on.
Yes,
that you
so-
saw.
Do we still find it here? I don't mean at the College of Marin.
You see it?
It's, okay, in our world today. It has other names. What can we do about it though? Come on, y'all.
We have to buy land together, or like you said, the first principle you said is to own land. I mean, that's the core of everything, is to have homeland. And
Yeah, well, we're on land, well, I'm not really on land, but we're on land that belongs to indigenous people.
no, it doesn't. I mean, it does theoretically, but it doesn't physically or financially. And
That's my point.
the point, yes, I guess it's all of our point. How do we collectively own, or how do we liberate the waters again? How do we get it so we can drink from the streams again? Because unless we can actually drink.
So what one thing can you do, my friend?
I'm involved in bioremediation of waterways. That's what I do, I work on that, but you can use native plants to heal the land. You can, we can change the way we relate to rain. We can change the way we basically like the whole idea of heating and cooling, where you use generators and create pollution in order to heat and cool yourself.
yes, and we can
Change
also,
all that.
yes, we can, and we can also work to end environmental racism. Okay, thank you. Someone else? He has a microphone. Oh, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to, on February 18th in Oakland, there's going to be a beloved Oakland meeting about owning land in a particular area of East Oakland, for people to come together, Black activists that are wanting to own land. I'm piggybacking on what you said about land ownership. What's going on in Oakland right now, it breaks my heart. Just to see the construction going on and people on the street and in tents, and Oakland used to be like my mecca for Black culture coming from Marin. And to see Black people on the street and to see what comes up for me, and I was gonna ask you, what do we do? But buying land is really, I mean, even though the land is indigenous land, the ripoff was that it was taken and stolen and then became a profit game. So the question that I have for everyone is, how do we stop participating in it? There was a friend of mine is renting a place for $200 a month. Well, the reason she's renting it for $200 a month is because she's 75 years old and she thinks that $600 a month for renting a room is too much. So she doesn't know, so she's not playing the game. When do we all stop playing the game of, I own a place so I can charge $5,000 a month for my place? Because people are being so displaced. It's huge.
Yes, I think that Thank you very much, Oshala. Thank you. And thank you for beautiful dance and poetry. Thank you. And I live in Oakland, so I understand. And I want to get back to something though, because I feel as if I didn't clearly state what I meant by we are on indigenous land. What I'm talking about is the whole of North America. What I'm talking about is that the tribal peoples that lived here before anyone could, if you look at the map of just what we call the United States, they filled every state. And where are they? Where are they? And we know where they are. And if you've ever been inside a reservation, I don't know why that term is used, actually. There's some other terms I would use. But let me say this, there are all kinds of carceral sites. We think of prison as being a major place of incarceration, but there are all kinds of places that people are held with no sense of the power to determine their own destiny. I just wanted to go back to that because I don't think we can pay homage enough. Especially here I stand with ancestors backing me up. I don't know a home. I don't know where home is. But to have a home and then it be taken from you, as you were pointing out, Oshala, is another something. So everywhere I go, I always remind us that there are only one huge, gigantic group of people who are not immigrants to North America. And then we can collectively build anything. The members of the Black Panther Party, and this was 4 or 5 decades ago, we lived collectively. So we weren't having a big, huge, loud footprint on the earth. I don't mean we lived communally. We lived collectively. One big house with, I don't know how many people in it, and children. So there are ways that we can do things, and quite often we frame a question or a statement as if there is no hope. So what's the hope? I want to hear some hope. What are you doing that is uplifting right now? Yes, she's right in front of you.
Hello, my name is Rochelle, and it's an honor to meet you. What I'm doing to bring hope, I'm an activist for Sickle Cell. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know that the Black Panther Party was...
I do, and I did meet Bobby Seale, and I know how the testing came about for...
Yes, we started a sickle cell education and research program that became attendant to our free clinics because doctors were treating sickle cell anemia, which primarily is prevalent in African and Mediterranean peoples. But they were treating it like pernicious anemia, so that Black people would go in severe pain, in crisis, and they'd be sent away because the testing didn't show. Do you understand? So we said, okay, then I'm gonna figure it out. And we went on the corners. We had doctors teach us how to do the little finger prick. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there's so much we don't know about history, but thank you. Go ahead.
And I would like to know how can, being an activist for that, how can I or others like me pave the way to start and recreate something grassroots for people of sickle cell and sickle cell descent blood diseases and things like that? Because it's highly needed.
It's so needed. Well, medical discrimination is a big thing. I want to encourage everybody here to read a book called Body and Soul. I love reading. Well, Cynthia and I love reading. She might love reading more than I do. But Body and Soul, Medical Discrimination in the Black Panther Party. It's the history of the way we started the People's Free Medical Clinics. Some of them still exist in Oakland and Berkeley. And then the sickle cell anemia research and education programs. And I think you may find some answers there, but also, how many, your name is Rochelle or
Yes.
Rochelle?
Rochelle.
Rochelle. How many people would like to help Rochelle get her program off the ground? Rochelle, turn around, look. Oh, can you stand if you want to help Rochelle? And really help. It made, she's about to cry. I wish you could see her. It's okay to cry. We're taught all kinds of stupid things. Well, they're not even stupid. Ridiculous things about our emotions and about our feelings and about our tenderheartedness and all of these things. Rochelle, thank you for asking the question because you gave an opportunity for all these people to help.
Thank you.
Are you leaving right away as soon as this is over?
No.
Rochelle, can you stand so they can see you? Don't cover your face. Okay, there she is. And this is how the Oakland Community School got started. A grandmother went of a child, a party member, the child of a party member, went to Huey Newton and said, we need a dedicated school site. We have a beautiful big house where we're having our school. Meanwhile, of course, the entire community wanted to have their children educated in our school because we were teaching children how to think. And we were loving them. And we were feeding them. So then this grandmother went to Huey and said, Huey, we need a dedicated school site. We can't keep moving around. She said, okay, let's do something about it. And so he formed Educational Opportunities Corporation, a nonprofit educational corporation. And then he asked some of his friends if they would help. And they stood up and stepped forward because the party didn't have, none of us got paid for anything. And when I was first, Rochelle, when I was first the director of the Oakland Community School, the only money I saw was from a welfare check for my 2 children. I never took a salary. It would have been nice, but I didn't. That school became such an amazing hub and oasis. But it came from just that one grandmother asking the kind of question you asked, and from all those people who stepped forward, and all those children who came and filled the space with their light and their brilliance, and they've gone on to do many things. The State Department of Education came to visit the school, and the assistant superintendent at the time who came to visit left in tears and said, can't we replicate this? And we were like, yeah, that's the whole point, yes. And he tried, and no one would listen. So we can do it then. We're the ones we're waiting for. I think I must have all of 1 minute left, right? Or none?
With you, Ericka, you take as much time as you want.
But I want to honor everyone's time. So thank you so much. Who else has an idea for something? Concrete idea. Not a, yes, there are people all over the place. And you can take my mic, if you want to take my mic, and so you're reaching more people. Will this one come off the thing?
I think there's another mic up here, Ericka.
Okay. Yes,
Hello, Ms. Huggins, thank you.
hello.
It's kind of going in different directions, but,
I didn't hear what you said.
oh, this is kind of going in different directions. Than we're
That's
going.
fine.
But,
All directions are good to go.
you spoke to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to phrase this. You spoke to the pushback of the Black Panther Party and the ideology behind it received from the American government. So my question to you is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's
You can just ask your question, that's fine.
Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize.
What barriers and obstacles do you see in the modern day in the way of Black liberation? Institutionally, culturally?
That's a great question. Well, I really do strongly believe that working in coalition is important. And when I go to college campuses, and I've been doing so to speak on college campuses for a number of decades, people don't want to work with one another. It's okay for there to be silence, because in it is always reflection. So we decide that we, whatever the we is, that we have the most important challenges. But we're forgetting that other people have similar challenges. And so I encourage working in coalition. That's right off the top. I'm repeating myself, I know it, but I cannot tell you how important it is. And also, we can refute our socialization. Let me make that plain. We can stop listening to all those messages we've been given that have been passed on in a multi-generational fashion about how unintelligent, how not beautiful, how not good we are. And I'm thinking of 3 stories in rapid succession that I wish I had time to tell you, but I don't. But you could be the beginning of something new. Because I felt like your questions, you have lots of questions, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. That they're based in wanting to do it differently, whatever it is. I don't mean to sound like I'm speaking in riddles, but it brings a lot of pain when you know that we could be working together and we aren't, but we were trained not to. We were placed, and I'm going way back here, so bear with me. We were tribal peoples who the tribes did not know each other before they were placed rudely, roughly, and violently in ships together. And it has never changed. There has not been any healing intervention. So we have to bring the healing. it isn't politically and socially as important as it is culturally and spiritually, if I can speak to you like that. And I hope you understand what I just said. Was there something else, something you want to share that you're, yes?
Do you think that we're...
Can somebody hold your camera for you?
Sure, thank you. Thank you. I'm not even gonna say,
Just hold the mic so everybody.
okay. I know that I wouldn't even go back to say the difference between back in the 60s and 70s, but today, do you think that we're at a more advantage if we were able to come together with social media the way it is, or a disadvantage?
You just answered your own question. Yes, we can use social media for good. I love it when I read things that aren't about when I read things that are uplifting and where children are doing dramatic, wonderful things, where teens are starting their own businesses, where people are standing up for what's right and what's good in the face of darkness and its struggle for power. I'm always touched by women who speak out, even if it means that they're exposed and vulnerable and could be stalked. It's still important to speak your truth. It's very important. It's important for men to speak their truth as well. And we don't raise boys to be men who speak their truth. We don't raise boys to be men who feel, who cry, who show tender-heartedness. We teach ridiculous things to children, and we can teach children really wonderful things through social media. We can publish books using social media. We can talk to one another. We can be face to face that way as well, because we don't any longer know how to be face to face. But that's okay, because look, all of us are here face to face tonight. So I think I'm going to stop here, because I'm sure that the program was meant to have ended a while ago. But thank you so much for coming together, for being here, for sitting near each other, whoa, and for making this a wonderful educational institution where you learn, in addition to the subjects in front of you, you learn how to be a fully awake and alive human being. Thank you so much.
Ericka, thank you so very much. One thing Ms. Huggins did not have a chance to say, which I'm going to say because we're at the community college, and when she told it to me, it rang true. She says, of the educational institutions that we talk about, the community college are the prestigious universities. They're the prestigious universities. I want to thank thank, before we move to the reception, I want to thank Linda Frank, I want to thank Lisa Morris and David White, I want to thank Roger Dorman, I want to thank Mike, Albert, and Jesse, who did the poster. I want to thank the Vice President, the President, the Board of Trustees, Carrie Torres, I want to thank Christopher Yang, Sadiqa Suleiman, ISCOM, I want to thank Nicole Cruz, who's just really been a soldier through making sure that this information got out. I want to thank Patrick and John, who's doing a videotape. I want to thank John Cornget, who made the registration. But basically, I want to thank you for believing in the College of Marin, supporting Black History Month, supporting the students, and supporting the Umoja program. Thank you again. And the reception is upstairs in the lobby, and you're all welcome. And Ms. Huggins will be there to mingle and talk with you and answer any other questions. She's going to stay with us for a bit. So thank you so much.